Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Today, I would like to present one of the most important concepts in sociolinguistics and language learning, which is communicative competence. This concept helps us understand how language actually works in real-life communication, not only in textbooks. When we learn a language, especially a foreign language like English, we usually focus on grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. We learn tenses, sentence pattern, and word meanings. However, in real-life communication, knowing grammar alone is often not enough. Many learners can make correct sentences, but still feel confused, awkward, or unsure when they try to speak English. Sometimes, people understand our grammar but misunderstand our intention. Other times, our sentences are correct but they sound rude, strange, or inappropriate. This happens because communication is not only about language form, but also about context and social rules. This is why the concept of communicative competence becomes very important in learning a language. Now, let's move to the definition of communicative competence. The term communicative competence was introduced by Hymes as a response to Noam Chomsky's concept of linguistic competence. Chomsky focused on linguistic competence, which refers to a speaker's knowledge of grammar and their ability to produce grammatically correct sentences. In other words, linguistic competence is about knowing whether a sentence is correct or incorrect. However, Hymes argued that this view was too narrow. He believed that grammar alone could not explain how language is actually used in society. According to Hymes, knowing a language means not only knowing its grammatical rules, but also knowing how to use language appropriately in social and cultural contexts. This broader ability is called communicative competence. In the material, communicative competence is described as the ability to choose language forms that are appropriate to the social norms governing specific situation. So, the main focus is not only correctness but also appropriateness. Let's look at simple example. The sentence "close the door" is grammatically correct. There is nothing wrong with the structure of this sentence. However, if a student says this directly to a teacher, it may sound rude or implied. The problem is not grammar, but social relationship and context. A communicatively competent speaker would say something like, "Could you please close the door, sir?" This sentence shows politeness and respect. It fits the situation better. From this example, we can see that communicative competence involves politeness, social rules, and context, not just grammar rules. So, what does communicative competence include? Based on the material, communicative competence includes knowledge such as, first, knowing who may speak and who may not speak in certain situations. In some situations, only certain people are allowed to speak. And the second, knowing when it is appropriate to speak and when it is better to remain silent. Silence can also be a form of communication. And the third, knowing how to speak to people of different social status or roles. The way we speak to friends is different from the way we speak to teachers or lecturers. And the fourth, knowing what kind of verbal and non-verbal behavior is acceptable. This includes tone of voice, facial expression, and body language. For example, in a classroom setting, students are expected to raise their hand before speaking. Speaking without permission may not break grammar rules, but it violates communicative norms. This shows that communicative competence is closely related to social competence. Himes also explained that when children learn a language, they don't only learn sentence structure or vocabulary, they also learn how sentences are used in their community. Through daily interaction with parents, teachers, and friends, children learn what is considered polite, rude, appropriate, or inappropriate. This process happens naturally. This process is known as language socialization. Therefore, communicative competence is not learned only through formal instruction in the classroom, but also through real interaction in society. To explain communicative competence more clearly, Himes proposed the speaking framework. This framework helps us understand the different elements involved in a communicative event. The first is S for setting and scenes. This refers to where and when communication takes place, as well as the psychological situation. For example, speaking in a classroom is different from speaking in some place or a cafe. The second is P for participants. This refers to who is speaking and who is listening. The way we speak to friends is different from the way we speak to our parents or our lecturers. And the third is E for ends. This refers to the goals or purpose of communication. A conversation may aim to inform, request, persuade, or entertain. And the next is A for exequence. Exequence refers to what is said and how it is said, including the order of speech. And the next is Key for keys. Keys refers to the tone or manner of speech, such as serious, joking, or sarcastic. And the next is I for instrumentalities. This refers to the channel and variety of language used, such as spoken or written language, formal or informal style. And the next is N for norms. This refers to rules of interaction, such as turn-taking and politeness. And the last is G for genre. This refers to the type of speech, such as conversation, lecture, prayer, or a joke. So, a communicatively competent speaker understands all these elements and adjusts their language accordingly. So, what is the social function of speaking framework? The first is helps understand communication in context. And the second is explains why the same sentence can have different meanings. And for the last is to guide appropriate language use in different situations. The importance in English language teaching. In English language teaching, communicative competence is very important. Students may master grammar rules, but still struggle to communicate if they don't understand how English is used in real situations. Therefore, teaching English should not only focus on grammar, but also on real communications. For example, making requests, giving opinions, asking for help, and expressing feelings. appropriately. This approach helps students become more confident and effective communicators. To conclude, communicative competence is the ability to use language appropriately and effectively in social contexts. It emphasizes that successful communication is not only about grammatical correctness, but also about social awareness and cultural understanding. So, learning a language means learning how to communicate, not just how to form sentence. So, that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.